What's up guys, Matt here, and today I'm going to be talking about my review of the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Now this has been my daily driver for the past 3 months, and I'm going to be talking about what I think is good about the phone, what I think is okay about the phone, and what areas of improvement that Apple can make to give a better user experience in next year's iPhone. And then at the end, I'm going to be discussing with you whether or not you should upgrade or wait until next year's iPhone. Let's get started. This year, Apple introduced a triple lens camera system, one with an ultra wide, a wide, and a telephoto lens, all at 12 megapixels. Now, this camera system may look ugly, but it is extremely useful and versatile. Let me tell you, there have been many times where I've been in a situation where I could have really used an ultra wide lens just because there's no way I could back up and get far enough wide to maybe get a group shot or get everything like a landscape shot in. And now you can with that ultra wide lens. And one of the genius things that Apple did this year was they made switching between all three lenses very, very seamless. Now it's not perfect. You do see a little bit of a stutter or a lag when you're switching lenses, but looks like you're actually zooming in and out of the frame. Where Apple is still king and can't be touched by any of the competition is in video. Apple still has some of the best 4K 60 and image stabilization that you can get on a smartphone. You can even get 4K 60 on the front-facing camera this year. And Apple has finally listened to users and made it much more accessible to be able to change the resolution and the frame rate inside the camera app, where previously you would have to actually go out of the camera app and go into settings just to change those. Night mode goes toe-to-toe with Google's night sight photography. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically where they take computational photography and in a low lit scene where normally you wouldn't be able to get any kind of a picture out of it, they're able to boost artificial light into the scene to give a more visible photo in low light conditions. I actually think that what Apple has done with night mode on the 11 Pro is better than what Google is doing on night sight in the Pixel line. And the reason being is that Apple seems to give a much more true to life look of their photography, whereas the night sight to me feels a little more cool and artificial looking when it comes to the way it lights those scenes. The second biggest feature that Apple made to this year's iPhone is battery life. On the iPhone 11 Pro Max, I easily can get a day and a half with heavy usage, and with light to moderate usage, I have no problems pushing it to almost 2 days. Apple decided to thicken out the phone as opposed to trying to make it thinner and lighter. Now you do feel it in the heft of the phone. It is a much heavier phone than last year, but you gain battery life. This year, Apple finally included an 18-watt fast charger in the box for the 11 Pro series. Now you won't get this on the 11, but you will get it in the Pro series out of the box. And what that's going to do for you is if you are hurting for battery, you can actually go from 0 to 50% in just 30 minutes, which can be a lifesaver at times when maybe you forgot to charge your phone or you didn't place it correctly on the Qi charger. If you got 30 minutes, you can at least get half your battery back. Now the last big change that Apple made is the speakers. Now Apple calls it spatial audio, and at first I thought, maybe this is going to be some kind of gimmick. Okay, cool, whatever. The speakers are going to get a little bit louder than they were last year, which is always a nice bonus, but it's actually pretty nice. The best way to describe it, it's like putting a soundbar to your TV, how your TV speakers, even if they're good, adding a soundbar is going to make them that much better. And that's kind of how it feels with the iPhone 11 Pro. I'll be honest, with these speakers, I've been putting in my AirPods a lot less and just enjoying these speakers a lot more. So let's get into what I think is just an okay improvement. And right off the bat, it's got to be the design of the phone. Now, when I first saw the leaks back in January, I was thinking there's no way that Apple could design a phone like this. But the more and more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? If Apple can make an improvement to the camera system, I'm okay with the design of it. And the more I've used it in person, the more I've actually grown to like it. The other thing that I've grown to like is the matte glass back. And it's not as grippy as the normal kind of shiny glass back that you've gotten on previous iPhones, but it doesn't attract as many fingerprints, which is always a bonus. I'm not a big fan of the stainless steel sides. Now, yes, it is a very, very premium feel to it, and when you're paying $1,000+ for a phone, you want to have premium materials, but I just don't like the weight of the phone. The weight of the phone definitely is noticeable for long periods of usage, like when you're watching a video or maybe you've just been on your phone for a while. And I really think if they switch to something like titanium or aluminum, that would actually kind of solve the weight issue. So the next thing that's just okay is the screen. And Apple calls it their Super Retina XDR display, which from a brightness perspective is really awesome. It gets up to 800 nits, and when you're watching HDR content like on Netflix or Disney Plus, it can actually push it up to 1200 nits. And you're easily gonna be able to see this out in direct sunlight, no problem. And it gets very bright, but compared to the XS of last year, I'm not really noticing any kind of major resolution or improvements on the actual display quality itself. Don't get me wrong, it's a great display. It's still really nice, still one of the best on the market, but it's probably not deserving of some Super Retina XDR display. And then lastly, what I find to be just okay is Face ID. They did make some improvements this year to Face ID. It definitely is faster, more reliable. I'd say about 98, 99% of the time it works for me, but it doesn't work at extreme angles like I wish it would. For one, if it's laying on a desk or a table, you're still gonna have to pick it up in order to unlock the phone, or you're gonna have to lean over the display in order for it to recognize your face. And I wish that they would use it just like on the iPad Pro, where you can actually unlock from any angle. So let's say I'm watching a movie or I'm taking a picture and I accidentally lock the screen. Instead of having to reorient the phone into portrait mode, let me be able to unlock the phone in landscape. So now I'm going to get into what I think Apple needs to improve upon to make this a better user experience. And the biggest thing is that Siri needs to get better. Now, Siri's definitely gotten better in terms of she sounds more natural, and at times the voice dictation is a little bit better, but in certain areas, such as when I'm in the car using CarPlay, I definitely feel like I have to slow down and enunciate a lot more than I would than when I'm using Android Auto. With the Google Assistant, I can just pretty much speak normally and she'll be able to transcribe almost perfectly what I said. So that's one area where I think Apple needs to improve Siri in terms of voice dictation, but also how you use Siri, I think needs to improve. For instance, just generally finding an answer to a question. When I ask Google Assistant, 99% of the time, it's gonna give me an answer. Whereas with Siri, quite a bit of times, more often than I'd like, it's going to spit back a web page or a Google search, which to me feels like a complete waste of time, because why am I asking Siri this question when all she's gonna do is give me basically a Google search that I could have done on my own? And then the second thing is just the fact that iOS for me is getting a little stale. Now I understand, hey, it just works and all that yada yada yada, but it still seems ridiculous to me that we're on 13 years of iOS and it's still that same boring grid of apps. Now I'm not asking for a complete and utter redesign, but just something small, like say being able to put the apps anywhere I want on the screen and maybe leave a blank space at the top. Because as these phones keep getting bigger and bigger and one-handed use is pretty much going by the wayside, I would love to be able to arrange all my apps to a much more reachable area down near the bottom of the screen. When iOS and the iPhone originally debuted, it was just a 3.5-inch phone. And now we've got iPhones that are larger than 6 inches. And so Apple really needs to think about how users use iOS in a way that is much more easier and beneficial. Now that we've talked about my experiences using the iPhone 11 Pro Max for the last 3 months, let's talk about whether or not you should upgrade. If you're on an iPhone XS or XS Max, you really gotta ask yourself, how important is battery life and camera to you? If seeing major improvements in those two areas are very, very important to you and you just gotta have the latest and greatest when it comes to camera and battery life, then this is definitely the phone for you, and I think you should upgrade. If those two areas aren't that important to you, I would definitely wait to see what Apple unveils next year with the iPhone 12 or 12 Pro, whatever it is they call it. But if you're on an iPhone 10 or older, you're struggling to get through the day on a single charge, or your user experience isn't where you want it to be, then this is definitely the phone you want to upgrade to. Now, I would definitely possibly look at an iPhone 11 if maybe having the telephoto is not important to you, and battery life is still going to be pretty good on it, but it's not going to be best in class like the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max are. But you're going to get a lot of the same experience on the iPhone 11 as you will on the 11 Pro Max and 11 Pro. All right, guys, that concludes my review of the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Do me a favor, if you liked the video and you thought it was helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. And hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I got more coming on the way. In fact, right now I'm going to be reviewing the Pixel 4 XL and kind of give you my thoughts from an iOS user, someone who's entrenched in the Apple ecosystem, and what they think about Google's latest offering. So stay tuned for that. And go ahead and leave me a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are on the iPhone 11 Pro and whether or not you picked one up or you're going to wait for next year's iPhone. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Later.